This is a farmer who has planted this soybean. She's called Mama Eunice Demba. And Mama Eunice Demba really took up this planting of Namsoi, that what we call SB25, after she had seen from the screening the one of the, variety that had traits that she liked most. And one of those traits was a high biomass, high yield, and also good nodulation. And she appreciates this. When she's even taking it to the market, the large size of Namsoi really attracts good price.
We are
at Buhoro cell with members of a group called Abadachogora, who are the owner of the experimental field on soybean variety trial. We have 5 varieties here. Yezumutima.
Here is which variety?
Here we have the variety Soprosoy. There is also the variety SB19. Here we have variety
PK6. Here something is very specific for this variety. It's a very short duration variety. We can see a lot of grains, but we don't see a lot of biomass. If we go now to the variety SB24, we can see that the pods are busy filling. It will take more time to mature, but we can also see that there's more biomass. So at the level of soil fertility, this variety is certainly going to improve soil fertility much more than the other variety. If you look back at the different crops, which we see the maize, the sorghum, even the wheats, we use these crops to measure biological nitrogen fixation. These are like reference crops that don't fix nitrogen. We compare them with the legumes, and that allows us to measure biological nitrogen fixation.
As scientists, when we talk about biomass, we mean the leafy material above the ground. And it is including the leaves, the stems, and the pods, which are still tender. And that is done almost when it is at the stage of pod filling. Then when we are talking about yield, this is at the harvest time. All these leaves will have already fallen off. What we shall be remaining with, there will be pods, and we have the grains inside. And what we have is the grain inside is the one that we should be able to use to gauge the yield. And we get it in tons per hectare or kilograms per hectare.
Welcome to one of our N2AFRICA sites. We are now in Butele, Western Kenya, and this is an inoculation trial. We are trying to look at the responses of inoculation to different soybean varieties.
It's a beautiful trial. I think the plots are perfectly maintained, and look at the differences. You've done an excellent job, John. Well done indeed.
Thanks a lot. You're welcome.
In this experiment, we've got strips of plots. Some of them are without inoculation. They're labelled -R, minus rhizobium. And we've got strips of plots which have been inoculated with rhizobium inoculant, and they're labelled +R. These plots have all been fertilised with phosphorus and potassium, so there shouldn't be any other limiting nutrients. In this plot, we have a specific variety of soybean, which we've included for comparison here. So this is a variety which doesn't nodulate readily with indigenous rhizobia in the soil. These plants actually have no nodules at all. They're yellow, and the growth is not as prolific. A variety like this is then dependent on nitrogen from the soil, and you can see it is growing. It's not completely dwarfed, but the number of pods on each plant is very small, and the total grain yield will also be very limited. We're now looking at a row of plots that have all been inoculated with Rhizobium inoculant. This is SB97. The growth in terms of its height is almost double the height that we had without inoculation. It's got luxuriant green biomass. It's clearly nodulating very well. So we see nodules around the crown of the root system, and that's very typical, these large nodules on the crown of a plant that's been inoculated. As soon as the first root emerges, it finds a large population of Rhizobium and nodules form right there. In this plot we've got SB25. It's a promiscuous nodulating variety that does very well here. It's almost twice the height of the specific variety without inoculation. The leaves are really quite green, but actually some of the leaves are a little bit yellow. We'd be expecting off a plot like this something around 1,500 kilograms per hectare.
And try to show you that these varieties that we got from IITA, they are promiscuous varieties. That is, they inodulate freely with the indigenous Rhizobia bacteria, which is in the soil. And they can fix that nitrogen into the soil and be able to boost up the crop growth of this crop. And in the end, once it is incorporated into the soil, the next season, the cereal crop that will be planted will benefit from the nitrogen accumulation left in the soil.
In this plot, plants are nearly waist high, luxuriant biomass growth with inoculation and prolific nodulation on these roots, again close to the crown where you've got a high Rhizobium population provided by the inoculant. It'll be a really good yield, around 1,800 to 2,000 kilograms per hectare. Oh, the experiment looks beautiful. Another uninoculated plot of the specific variety, growing very poorly. Another plot there, promiscuous variety, lovely and luxuriant. You know, I think what we can all learn from this here today is clearly we're getting a good yield with the promiscuous varieties, but with inoculation we're getting an extra 10 or looks like 20% of yield simply with Rhizobium inoculation. So if we can bring inoculants to the farmer, they can achieve a much bigger yield simply with Rhizobium inoculant. Think that a plant breeder takes maybe 10 years of intensive breeding to make a 10 or a 20% increase in yield. We can do that now with Rhizobium inoculant.